The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. It hammered against the windshield of Daniel Carter's SUV as he crawled through traffic, the city drowned in silver-gray streaks and puddles that reflected the streetlights. Most people hated weather like this, but Daniel didn't mind. Rain gave him a strange sense of quiet, a feeling he rarely found as the CEO of Carter Tech, a company that never slept, never slowed, and demanded more of him than he had left to give. He shouldn't have been driving himself. His assistant had insisted on sending a driver, but Daniel had refused. He needed space. He needed time to think. He needed to get away from the polished glass tower where people bowed their heads when he passed and whispered that he was brilliant, intimidating. Cold Burr. Old Burr. He'd gotten used to hearing that. Tonight. As he turned into the grocery store parking lot at nearly midnight, he felt something else. An emptiness, a heaviness, a loneliness that crept into his chest no matter how many successes he stacked on top of it. His 7-year-old daughter, Lily, had fallen asleep in the back seat, curled up with her pink blanket, her lips slightly parted. Daniel glanced at her sleeping face and smiled faintly. He was his everything Burr, the only real thing left in his life since her mother passed away. He parked close to the entrance and gently lifted Lily into his arms. She stirred but didn't wake. The moment he stepped inside, warm air met cold rain, fogging his vision slightly. The store was nearly empty, just a few night shift workers stocking shelves and a couple of late-night shoppers. He moved quietly, grabbing what he needed: medicine for Lily's lingering cough, groceries for breakfast, a few things for himself, nothing unusual. As he passed through the bakery aisle, something caught his attention. A small boy, thin, around 9 or 10, stood on his tiptoes, glancing nervously at a rack of discounted bread. His tiny hands trembled as he reached for a loaf, hesitating, his eyes darting toward an employee at the end of the aisle. Daniel slowed his pace. The boy snatched the loaf and shoved it into the inside pocket of his worn hoodie. Not stolen for thrill, not stolen for greed, stolen because he was hungry. Daniel recognized the signs instantly. Hunger had a certain desperation, a way of tightening the shoulders, sharpening the eyes, making every move cautious and urgent. The boy moved toward the canned goods as though preparing to take more. Daniel stepped closer, but not enough to frighten him. Then, suddenly, "Hey!" a voice barked. A store guard marched down the aisle, pointing directly at the boy. "You! Stop right there!" The boy froze. His face drained of color. His breathing turned shallow. "Please," the boy whispered, "please don't take our food." He backed up until he hit the shelf behind him, cans rattling from the impact. "My mom is sick," he pleaded. We don't have anything at home. Please." Daniel's chest tightened. The guard grabbed the boy's arm roughly. "You think that's my problem? Theft is theft. You're coming with me." The boy whimpered, pain flashing across his face as the guard gripped harder. Lily stirred in Daniel's arms, her head lifting just enough for her sleepy voice to murmur, "Daddy?" "Shh, sweetheart," he whispered, setting her gently into the cart seat. Then he turned. Something in him snapped, something old and restless, something carved from years of bitter memories of seeing his own father struggle to feed him as a child. Daniel stepped between the guard and the boy. "That's enough," he said, his voice low, firm. The guard blinked. "Sir, this kid stole." "I saw," Daniel said. "I'll pay for it." The boy looked up, wide-eyed, trembling. You don't have to." Daniel placed a hand on the guard's arm. "Let him go," but the guard shook, his head stubbornly. "Company policy. We have to involve the manager and—" "Do you know who I am?" Daniel asked, not arrogantly, but with a controlled calm that made the guard hesitate. "No," the guard muttered. "Good." Daniel's tone sharpened. "Then treat me like any other customer. I'm paying for the bread. There's no problem here." The guard looked at the boy again, then at Daniel, and finally exhaled sharply and released him. The boy stumbled back, clutching the loaf to his chest. His eyes shone with fear, confusion, and something Daniel recognized all too well. Shame. Daniel knelt slightly to meet the boy's gaze. "What's your name?" Eli," the boy said softly. "Where is your mom?" "At home," Eli whispered. "She's really sick. She can't get up, and we don't have money, and I just needed something for her to eat." Daniel felt something twist painfully inside him. He had seen poverty. He had lived it before reaching the top. But something about this boy, about his shaking voice, his oversized hoodie, the way he protected the bread like it was treasure, cut deeper than he expected. "Do you have a dad at home?" Daniel asked gently. Eli shook his head. A shadow passed over his face. "No, it's just us." Behind Daniel, Lily rubbed her eyes, blinking awake. "Daddy, who's he?" Daniel turned slightly. "This is Eli. He's helping his mom." Lily looked at the boy thoughtfully, then offered a small smile. "Hi." Eli managed a weak smile in return. Daniel stood and guided both children toward the checkout, ignoring the guard's muttering. At the register, he paid for the bread, plus everything the boy had been staring at on the shelves. Fruits, soup cans, milk, eggs. Eli looked terrified. "No," he whispered. "You can't. That's too much. We can't pay you back." Daniel shook his head. "You don't have to." "But why?" Eli's voice cracked. "Why are you helping us?" Daniel paused. Then he said quietly, "Because someone once helped me when I needed it." The truth was more painful and complicated than that, but it was the only answer he could offer right now. As they stepped into the rain, Eli clutching the grocery bag like it was made of gold, Daniel opened his car door. "Where do you live?" he asked. Eli hesitated. You want to know our address?" "I'm giving you a ride home," Daniel said. "You shouldn't walk alone in this rain." Eli's eyes filled with worry. "You're not with social services, right? You're not going to take me away from my mom?" Daniel kneeled again, lowering himself to the boy's level. "No, Eli, I'm a dad too. I just want to make sure your mom is okay." That seemed to be the reassurance Eli needed. He exhaled shakily and gave Daniel the address. A run-down apartment complex. One Daniel's company had donated to for years. He hadn't realized people still lived in such conditions. The drive there was quiet, except for the rain. When they arrived, the building looked worse than Daniel imagined. Cracked walls, flickering hallway lights, a broken elevator. Eli led them up 2 flights of stairs and stopped at a door swollen from humidity. "This is us," he whispered. He pushed the door open. The smell of dampness and illness hit immediately. Inside, a woman lay shivering on a thin mattress on the floor, wrapped in a faded blanket. Her face was pale, her breathing shallow. "Mom," Eli said softly, kneeling beside her. "I brought food." Her eyes fluttered open slowly, cloudy, exhausted. "Eli, sweetheart, you're soaked." Daniel stepped forward. The woman's weak eyes widened in fear. Who are you?" she rasped. Daniel spoke softly. "My name is Daniel. Your son needed help. I brought him home." She tried to sit up but collapsed back, coughing violently. Lily clung to Daniel's leg, her eyes wide with worry. Daniel scanned the room. Empty fridge, nearly no furniture, unpaid bills pinned to the wall. And one thing was clear. This woman needed medical help. Now. He took a breath. "Eli," he said gently, "I'm going to get your mom to a hospital." "No," Eli cried instantly, gripping his mother tightly. "They'll take her away. They'll make me go to foster care. We can't lose each other." Daniel froze. This was fear built from experience. What had they been through? He knelt again, lowering his voice until only Eli could hear. "Listen to me," he said softly. "I am not here to take your family away. I'm here to help you keep it." Eli trembled. His mother's weak voice whispered, "Please, don't take my son." And at that moment, Daniel Carter, the CEO known for being cold, ruthless, and unshakable, felt something inside him break. He pulled out his phone, not to call an ambulance, not to call social services, but to call the only doctor he truly trusted, a private physician who owed him more than a few favors. As the call connected, Daniel looked at the fragile family before him and made a decision that would change all of their lives forever. A decision he didn't fully understand yet. A decision no one, not even he, could have predicted. Dr. Miles Jacobs arrived within 20 minutes. Not in an ambulance, not with flashing lights, but quietly, discreetly, just as Daniel requested. Dripped off his coat as he knelt beside the frail woman on the floor. He didn't ask unnecessary questions, not when Daniel used that particular tone on the phone. Instead, he examined her with quick, practiced movements. Eli hovered anxiously beside him, wringing his hands until his knuckles paled. "Is she gonna be okay?" he whispered. Dr. Jacobs worked silently for a moment before answering. "She's dehydrated, malnourished, and running a high fever," he said. "Looks like a respiratory infection that went untreated for weeks. She needs fluids, antibiotics, and rest. I'll arrange for a home nurse for the next few days." Eli's eyes widened. "But we can't pay." "You don't have to," Daniel cut in quietly. Eli turned to him, confusion tightening his little face. "But why? You don't even know us." Daniel paused. How could he explain to a child the way loneliness sharpens empathy? How could he describe the memories that haunted him? The sight of his own father coughing in bed while Daniel, at that same age, heated canned soup and prayed he wouldn't die. Instead, he said, "Because helping you is the right thing to do." That was all. Dr. Jacobs nodded at Daniel. "I'll send the medication and nurse in an hour." Then he stood and gently touched Eli's shoulder. "Your mom will improve." After the doctor left, the apartment felt too quiet, too small, too full of unspoken fears. Lily tugged at Daniel's sleeve. "Daddy," she whispered, "can we help clean?" He looked down at her, soft brown hair, sleepy eyes, her pink blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The idea came from her innocent heart, but it struck him. Yes, they could help, and they should. Daniel knelt beside Eli. "Would it be okay if we tidy up a bit? It might make your mom more comfortable." Eli hesitated, embarrassed. I'm sorry the place is a mess. I've been trying, but she got sick and she aids me and—" "Hey," Daniel said softly, placing a hand on his small shoulder. "You've done more than many adults could. You're a good son." No one had ever spoken words like that to Eli, not with sincerity. His eyes instantly filled with tears. He tried desperately to blink away. They started with simple things. Lily folded blankets. Daniel emptied trash, cleaned the sink, organized scattered bills. Eli swept the floor with trembling hands. After nearly an hour, the apartment looked less like a place abandoned by the world and more like a home desperately holding on. When the nurse arrived, a kind, middle-aged woman named Rosa, she immediately took charge, setting up 4 fluids and preparing medications. She checked the mother's breathing, adjusted her blankets, and assured Eli she would stay as long as needed. Only once his mom was stable did Eli finally let out a breath, one that sounded like he'd been holding inside for years. He stood beside Daniel, watching the nurse work, his small hands fidgeting. "Mr. Daniel?" he asked quietly. "Yes? What do you do?" "For work, I mean." Daniel blinked. Kids rarely asked him that. Adults knew. And when they did ask, they prepared themselves for titles, for the gravity of his position, for the weight of wealth behind his name. But this boy asked because he genuinely didn't know. "I work in technology," Daniel said simply. "I run a company. I thought maybe—" Eli glanced down. "You were like a superhero." Daniel smiled faintly. "Why would you think that?" "You saved us tonight." Daniel swallowed. No one had ever called him that, not even close. "Thank you," he said softly. "But you're the real hero. You took care of your mom even when things were hard." Eli's face warmed, glowing with pride. It was a simple moment, but it hit Daniel deeply. Eli reminded him of himself at that age, too grown for his years, too small for his burdens. They were about to leave when Eli suddenly grabbed Daniel's sleeve. "Wait," the boy whispered. "Can you stay? Just for a little?" I get scared at night when she's sick." Daniel hesitated. He should go home. He had work in the morning. He had emails piling up, meetings, contracts, deadlines. But when he looked down at Eli's trembling hands, something inside him made the choice before he even spoke. "Of course," he said. "We'll stay a little while." Lily nodded, climbing into a corner of the sofa with her blanket. "I can stay too. I'm not sleepy anymore." They stayed. Rosa tended to the mother quietly, the 4 drip clicking faintly with each drop. Eli sat beside Daniel on the floor. Lily hummed softly, her little legs swinging. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Daniel asked Eli gently. Eli shrugged. "Anything that lets me take care of my mom. She works so hard, she gets tired. I want to make things easier." That hit Daniel harder than he expected. Before he could respond, a weak voice whispered from behind them. Eli, his mother. Her eyes were open, barely, but clearer than before. Eli rushed to her side. "Mom, how do you feel?" Her trembling hand brushed his cheek. "Better, because you're safe." Daniel approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. She looked at him, recognition flickering. "You're the man from the store," she murmured. "Yes," Daniel said gently. "Thank you," she whispered. "My son, he carries too much. He shouldn't have to." "He won't," Daniel said quietly. For the first time, a tear rolled down her cheek. "I don't want pity," she said weakly. "I just want him to have a chance. And he will," Daniel promised. Her gaze softened, as if she wanted to believe him, but had been disappointed too many times to trust easily. But then something unexpected happened. Lily tiptoed forward and aced her small hand on the woman's hand. "My daddy helps people," she said innocently. "He'll help you too." The woman let out a slow breath, one filled with a relief she couldn't hide. Daniel felt his heart twist. Lily never lied, and he couldn't let her promise something he wouldn't deliver. He had helped out of compassion, yes, but now it felt bigger, more important, more personal. The night stretched on, calm and quiet except for the rain. At some point, Rosa took Lily to rest on the sofa, while Eli drifted off against Daniel's side. Exhausted, trusting, safe, Daniel stayed awake the whole time, thinking, watching, deciding. He watched Eli's mother breathe a bit easier. He watched Lily sleep peacefully. He watched the raindrops drip down the cracked window. And something became painfully clear. Tonight changed everything. He couldn't just return to his life and pretend this family didn't exist. He couldn't pretend the world didn't look different now. At dawn, when the rain finally stopped, he quietly carried sleeping Lily back to the car. As he tucked her into her seat, Eli ran out of the apartment barefoot, panic on his face. "Are you leaving?" he cried, breathless. Daniel knelt, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "I'll be back," he said. Eli's eyes shimmered. "People say that, and they never come back." Daniel's heart cracked. He rested both hands on Eli's shoulders, steadying him. "I give you my word," he said softly. "I will come back." Eli looked up at him, searching, hoping, doubting, trusting, and after a long moment, he nodded. Daniel stood, gave a final reassuring squeeze, and got into his car. As he drove away, Lily opened her eyes. "Daddy," she murmured, "are we going to help them again?" Daniel stared straight ahead. "Yes," he said, but what he didn't say, what he didn't dare say yet, was that he intended to do far more than he. He just didn't know how deeply he'd get involved, or how much this family would change him. Daniel returned the very next evening. He couldn't concentrate at work, not on the quarterly reports, not on the upcoming product launch, not on the back-to-back meetings his assistant arranged. Every time he tried to focus, he saw Eli's face. Small, worried, filled with a fear no child should carry. So at 6 o'clock sharp, he told his assistant he needed the rest of the day off and drove directly to the apartment building. This time, he brought more than food. He brought hope, although he didn't know it yet. The hallway echoed with the tap of his shoes as he reached Eli's door. Before he could knock, the door burst open and Eli ran out, nearly crashing into him. "You came back!" the boy shouted, breathless, eyes shining as if Daniel had returned from war. Daniel smiled and ruffled his hair. "I told you I would." Eli grabbed his hand. "Mom's awake today. She wants to see you." Daniel stepped inside. The apartment already looked different. Rosen, the nurse, had clearly been helping. The floors were cleaner. The mother propped up with pillows to help her breathing. Color had returned faintly to her face, though she still looked fragile. She gave Daniel a tired but grateful smile. "You didn't have to come again," she whispered. "I wanted to," Daniel said. Her eyes softened. "My name is Hannah." "Daniel," he replied, though she already knew. He didn't mention he was a CEO. He didn't mention Carter Tech. He didn't want her gratitude or fear or obligation of her. He wanted to understand. "Eli tells me you've been sick for a while," he said carefully, Burr. Anna's jaw tightened. "I lost my job months ago, then I got pneumonia. Couldn't afford medication, couldn't afford a doctor. I didn't want anyone to take Eli away, so I tried to manage at home, Burr." Anya listened quietly. Every word made his chest feel heavier. "I applied for help," she continued, eyes flickering with shame. "But the waiting list is long, and the landlord threatened to evict us. I didn't know what else to do." Daniel swallowed hard. He'd grown up in a place just like this, where one bad month could destroy a family. He looked at Eli. The boy stood at the doorway, watching every movement, every breath, afraid something might happen if he looked away. "Did you eat today?" Daniel asked him gently. Eli shook his head. "Mom needed the food more." Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. "It shouldn't be like this. It didn't need to be like this. Come here," Daniel said softly. Eli approached. Daniel reached into the grocery bag he brought and pulled out a warm meal from Lily's favorite diner. He set it on the table. "This is for both of you." Eli stared at the food as if it were a miracle. Hannah's eyes filled with tears again, not from weakness but from the crushing weight of gratitude. "Mr. Daniel," she said quietly, "you've already done so much." He shook his head. "I haven't done nearly enough." Before they could respond, little footsteps rushed into the apartment. "Hi, Eli," Lily chirped, holding her pink blanket and waving as if they'd known each other for years. Eli smiled back shyly. Daniel helped set up dinner on the tiny table. Eli ate slowly at first, almost afraid to finish too quickly. Hannah had a little soup, her strength still limited. When they finished, Daniel leaned forward slightly. "I have an idea," he said. "I want to talk to you both about something." Hannah tensed, half expecting bad news. "I'd like to help you long term," he continued gently. "Medical care, living conditions, everything." Hannah instantly shook her head. No, that's too much. We can't accept—" "You're not accepting charity," Daniel said. "I'm offering stable. Itty. And I want to do it because—" He paused. "Because you deserve a chance. And because Eli reminds me a lot of myself when I was young." Eli blinked at him. "And because Lily likes him," Daniel added with a soft smile. That made Eli grin proudly. Still, Hannah shook her head. "I don't want you to carry our burdens." Daniel leaned back, thoughtful. He respected her pride. He respected her independence. So he tried a different angle. "What if," he said carefully, "I offered you a job?" Hannah froze. "What?" "At Carter Tech," Daniel said. "We have open administrative positions. Work from home, flexible hours while you recover. I'll send someone to train you. It won't be charity. You'll earn your salary." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "Bear, you'd hire me, Bear?" "If you want the job," Daniel said, "the position is yours." Anna covered her mouth with her hand as tears rolled silently down her cheeks. She nodded, slowly, overwhelmed. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't know what this means, Burr." Lee hugged her tightly, burying his face in her side. Daniel's voice softened. "And about your apartment, I also want you both somewhere safer. We can't afford, Burr—" "I'll handle the first year's rent," he interrupted gently. "After that, your salary will cover it. I'm not giving you a house, I'm giving you time, Bar." Lee stared at him as though he were witnessing magic. "Bar, why?" the boy asked softly. "Why are you doing all this?" Daniel looked at him, seeing his younger self, scared, hungry, protective beyond his years. "Because someone once helped me when I had nothing," he said. "A stranger changed my life. Now it's my turn." Islands filled the room. Burr. Arm quiet. Healing. Burr. Few days passed. Anna's health improved, rapidly with medication and care. Burr. Lee's smiles became more frequent. N.D. Daniel, unexpectedly, began visiting every day. Burr. Days he brought dinner. Burr. Days. Lily brought coloring books. Some days Daniel simply sat and talked with Hannah while the kids played. He was not used to this, not used to being welcomed so warmly, not used to laughing freely, not used to feeling needed. He didn't realize how lonely he had been until their small apartment became the place he looked forward to most. Soon, Hannah moved into a better apartment arranged by Daniel's contacts. Bright windows, clean hallways, safety. Eli ran from room to room, touching everything, whispering, "We have a real home now." Daniel stood quietly in the doorway, watching the family he'd grown to care for deeply. A week later, as they all celebrated Hannah's first paycheck from Carter Tech, she pulled Daniel aside. "Burr." "Why us?" she whispered. "You could help anyone. Why did you choose us?" "Burr." Daniel thought about his empty house, his long, silent nights, the cold echo of success without connection. "Burr. I didn't choose you," he said softly. "You just appeared when I needed a reminder of who I really am." Before Hannah could respond, Eli rushed over with excitement. "Burr, Mr. Daniel, Mr. Daniel, I got an A on my math quiz, Burr." Daniel crouched and gave him a proud high five. "That's amazing. You helped us," Eli said, glowing. "You saved us, Burr." Daniel shook his head. "No, Eli, you saved your mom. I just gave you a push. Bar. Hen, something happened that would stay with Daniel forever. Lee wrapped his arms around Daniel's neck, hugging him tightly, fearlessly, lovingly. Bar. Thank you, the boy whispered. You're like family. Daniel froze. Family. A word he hadn't felt in years. He hugged the boy back slowly, then firmly, as something in him finally softened, finally healed. Lily climbed beside them, giggling, joining the hug. Soon Hannah stood near them, eyes warm, grateful, steady. And for the first time in a long, long time, Daniel didn't feel like a man visiting someone else's life. He felt like he was exactly where he belonged. Sometimes family isn't born. Sometimes it's found in the rain on a desperate night, in the trembling voice of a frightened boy, in the quiet bravery of a sick mother, and in the unexpected kindness of a single dad trying to do what's right. Daniel walked into that grocery store a stranger. He walked out with something far more precious than he ever expected, a second chance at life, a second chance at love, a second family, and he never let them go.